of Infinity Foundation, a not-for-profit organization in Princeton, New Jersey, which he founded in 1995 with his own funds. Mr. Malhotra is an Indian-American entrepreneur, philanthropist, and community leader who has devoted himself full-time with his own mind and efforts for the last 10 years to clarify many misinterpretations about the Indic traditions in America and among the Indians ourselves. Rajiv has been working closely with Pujya Swamiji for global peace and for promoting harmony and mutual respect. Now I will request Mr. Malhotra to address us. Mr. Malhotra.
Pujya Swamiji, it's indeed an honor to be invited here. I was asked to share a few moments on the topic of Hindu identity. For the past few months, I've conducted several brainstorms, workshops on issues concerning Hindus, both in the United States and in India, including and especially among youth. And based on listening, mainly asking what is on your mind, what bothers you, what do you want to resolve, but listening to a large number of people, I'd like to share with you what I've crystallized as the main issues that we face, so that discussions can start in a very crisp way on these issues. The central overriding issue I have identified, I think we ought to really think about and discuss more, is the issue of Hindu identity. And Hindu identity, I divide into three kinds of issues under the overall Hindu identity. First is a very important question. Why do we even need a Hindu identity? And this is a very, very important point that comes up over and over again. And I will focus on this, but let me just deal with briefly the other two. Once a person has crossed the first hurdle of why do we need a Hindu identity, then the second question is, what is the Hindu identity? What does it mean to be a Hindu? Because we don't have one historical event, which is the defining event, which has a canon, which has been frozen and fixed. We don't have that as a available, definable concept. There are many texts. Some people ask me, what is your book? And I tell them we have a whole library. And because of the very nature of revelation and the rishis and the idea of living enlightenment means that we have an inexhaustible supply of enlightened gurus all through our history, and hence a huge corpus of knowledge. So what exactly is my Hindu identity? Is it about a deity? Is it about a Purana? Is it about Vedas? Is it about yoga? This is an important second issue. Only after you've crossed the first issue do we even need a Hindu identity. So once a person is sure we need a Hindu identity, and once they've gone through the second process of defining what is the Hindu identity, then comes the third, which is how do we project this Hindu identity in a respectable manner as Americans, as modern people, as postmodern people, and so on. So these are the three. Why Hindu identity is needed, what is the Hindu identity, how do you project it? So the what, the why, what, and how of the identity, I feel is the main, is a kind of an important issue that Hindus have not dealt with enough. Now the first of these three, why do we need a Hindu identity? That's what I'd like to spend a couple of minutes on. I find that there are three major blockages when you ask people discuss about Hindu identity. It turns out that there are three major blockages that people have. The first blockage is, will identity be a source of tension, divisiveness? Will it divide us up? Will it create a conflict? And that's a stumbling block. Now, in response to that, what I would offer for you to think about is the following. There indeed are certain kinds of identities in this world which are divisive, because they claim exclusivity. If an identity claims exclusivity, that means for me to be valid, you cannot be valid. For me to be right, for my text to be valid, anything that's different must be invalidated. It has to be dealt with. Maybe with violence, maybe with non-violence, but it has to be dealt with and it cannot be considered valid. Such an identity, of course, creates conflict. And such an identity can, at best, offer tolerance. But tolerance is a very patronizing term. It means that I don't really think you're legitimate, but I put up with you. That's kind of a tolerance. Luckily, Hinduism doesn't have this problem, because Hindus do not claim exclusivity, and Hindus do offer mutual respect rather than just tolerance. In fact, in many interfaith dialogues, they try to have a resolution where everybody says we'll offer tolerance, we'll tolerate each other. And invariably, I stand up and say, let's edit that phrase, remove the word tolerance, and put in the word mutual respect. It's amazing how much controversy that creates. People are not willing to offer mutual respect because by offering you respect for your religion, I have validated your religion. And when I have validated your religion, then I can no longer claim my exclusivity. And if I can no longer claim my exclusivity, I'm going to be blamed by people in my faith for violating one of my injunctions, one of my requirements. So this business of shifting the discussion from tolerance to mutual respect, it can have a huge cascading effect. And I would like all of you to try it whenever you go to an interfaith issue. Talk about mutual respect and explain why it's not the same thing as tolerance, because mutual respect says you're legitimate in what you're doing and I want you to consider me legitimate as what I am doing in my faith. And this is something Hindus can contribute to the world very proudly as one of the most important contributions the world needs right now, and Hinduism has that to offer. So the first hurdle to having a Hindu identity which says, well, maybe it will create tension, maybe it will create conflict, I think we can resolve. In fact, if more people claim an identity and which sets the example of positive mutual respect for each other, that would actually help reduce tensions. Because we would take a moral high ground and ask other religions to match us and do the same and offer mutual respect. And if everybody were to start doing that, it would actually reduce tensions. So claiming Hindu identity, which includes mutual respect, is not a problem. So the second issue, the second blockage for having a Hindu identity, which comes up a lot in the conversations, is we're now all Americans. Why does it matter if you're Indian or Japanese or Chinese, and why does it matter if you're Hindu or Muslim? We're all Americans now, so let's not, let's just be Americans. Why do we need all these things? This is an important discussion on the nature of America. First of all, America respects and expects hyphenated identities. I mean, as far as national identities are concerned, there are Irish Americans, there are Italian Americans, there are Hispanic Americans, there are Japanese Americans, there are African Americans. And this is not considered a problem. This is the very fabric of America. This is what makes America distinct and unique. And therefore, for us to also have a hyphenated identity while also being American is not a problem and is not a contradiction. Secondly, as far as religious identities are concerned, again, America is very pluralistic, expects people to have a positive religious identity. It's perfectly okay for a person to say, I'm Jewish American, or I'm Buddhist or Muslim, or I'm Presbyterian, I'm Catholic, I'm Methodist, I'm whatever, Baptist. And therefore,